All right. Well, it is 5:30, March 12th, Wednesday evening, and welcome to the Fire Safe Council of Siskiyou County's monthly meeting. We start with introductions, and I'm going to ask that when you're speaking that you put your camera on for us so we all know who we're talking or who we're listening to. We'd appreciate that.
No, Dave from Siskiyou Media Group.
And then we'll just start off with Giselle.
All righty, here comes my camera. Hi, everybody. I'm Giselle Nova. I'm the coordinator for the Fire Safe Council of Siskiyou County, and it's good to be here. It's good to see a lot of you. Wow, we have 30. That's great.
I know.
I'm Dale Nova with the Mount Shasta Area Fire Safe Council. Howdy.
Hi, Dale. And I should have introduced myself first. I'm Jamie Tarn. I'm the president of the Fire Safe Council of Siskiyou County. Glenn?
Hello, everybody. I'm Glenn Jysett. I'm board member of the Fire Safe Council of Siskiyou County. I'm also a board member of the Klamath River Community Hall and the McKinney Fire LTRG.
Thank you. Kevin?
Yeah, good evening, everybody. Kevin Mancipo, Assistant Chief in charge of Hazard Mitigation for CAL FIRE 60 Unit.
Hi, Kevin. Kristen?
I'm Kristen Norman. I am Giselle's administrative assistant and the outreach and education coordinator for the Fire Safe Council of Siskiyou County.
Thanks. Ruby?
Hi, I'm Giselle's other administrative assistant.
Okay, thank you. And I don't want to mispronounce your name, Paola?
You want to try that again?
Yeah. Paola? Paola?
Yes, hi, I'm just observer. I'm from Mount Shasta.
Okay. And how do you say your name so I get it right next time?
Paula.
Paula. Okay, thank you. Greg?
Right in the middle of eating dinner. Greg Dinger, volunteer geek, Mount Shasta West.
Thanks, Greg. Dave?
Dave McAdams, Siskiyou Media Council. We manage the Wairika television station and the Weed television station.
Great. And Wesley?
Hi, everyone. My name is Wes Duncan. I am the new Director of Emergency Preparedness for the Siskiyou County Office of Education.
Thank you. Josh?
Hello, everyone. Josh Bean, Project Manager with CORE, working alongside the Fire Safe Council of Siskiyou County on the CWDG project.
And John?
Just an observer.
Okay, John, are you living in Siskiyou County?
Yeah, I'm here in the Timber Hills area.
Okay, great. Welcome.
Thanks.
Mike?
Hey everybody, Mike Hentz. I work with the Mid-Klamath Watershed Council and happy to be taking this from home up Elk Creek in the Marbles, which are rainy and winter's back on. I work as a project coordinator in the fire and forestry program primarily and happy to be here. Thanks.
Thanks. And Greg?
Hi, everybody. I am a program coordinator with CORE, working alongside the Fire Safe Council on the Community Wildfire Defense Grant.
All right. Greg, you were a little broken up. I don't know if that was on my end or yours. So, Mike Graves?
I'm actually just an observer, just an old friend of Dale's from King City, and have a cabin up in Tuolumne County. So learning a little bit about this process.
Great. Well, welcome. Glad to have you. Candy?
Hi, I live in Mount Shasta. I'm here as an observer, but I work at Shasta Valley RCD as a project coordinator on the California Wildfire Mitigation Program project.
Great. Thanks for coming. Jay Johnson? Jeremy?
Good evening, everyone. Jeremy Johnson. I'm the pre-fire engineer in the CAL FIRE Siskiyou unit.
All right. Seth?
No, battalion chief in Siskiyou, and I work also do fields work for the department in Siskiyou County.
Okay. Jenny?
Hi, I'm Jenny Coelho. I'm the new Chief Resilience Officer, former City Hall Administrator from the city of Tule Lake. So I'm here just learning, and Dave McAdams actually let me know about this. And so I'm going to learn some stuff so I can write up our urban fire plan.
Okay. I wish you good luck with that. Thanks. Elaine?
Hi, I opened the video. I don't know why I'm not here, but I'm an observer. Hi there. I'm an observer for tonight. I've been a resident of Dunsmuir since 2012. Just have been currently relocated in Wisconsin, but I'm so looking forward to returning this spring and very, very, very interested in fire safety.
Great. Welcome. Laura?
Hi, I'm just an observer tonight.
Okay, we're happy to have you.
Thank you.
Lisa?
Hi, I'm Lisa Strange from the Department of Insurance. Happy to be here.
Thanks. Madeline?
Hey, Madeline Lavaji, Quartz Valley resident. I have 5 acres. Seems like all I do is fuel reduction, and want to keep abreast of the bigger picture of Siskiyou County, what's being done.
Thanks, Madeline. Heidi?
Hi, I'm Heidi George. I am trying to start a gateway community, Firewise community in the gateway area of Mount Shasta. And I'm also the Audubon fuel treatment and bird nesting liaison. So I just created that because of my concern about nesting birds. So thank you.
Thank you. Jen?
I'm Jen Erickson. I'm the Forest Fire Prevention Officer on the Klamath National Forest.
Thanks, Jen. Joe?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Joe Rodarm. I'm the Forest Service District Ranger for Mount Shasta and McLeod Ranger Districts. I'm not able to turn on my camera, unfortunately. I normally like to, but having some internet issues tonight.
That's okay. I just asked for it. Otherwise, most of the time, everybody's looking at a blank screen, including myself.
Totally understand.
Stephen?
Hi, everyone. My name is Stephen Decatur. I run the Dunsmuir Firewise community, and I work for the city of Dunsmuir as a resilience specialist.
Thanks, Stephen. Darren? Can't hear you, Darren.
Dang it.
There you are.
You hear me now?
Yeah.
I'm Darren Weeks. I'm with the Siskiyou Air Pollution Control District.
Thanks, Darren. Tia Gaston?
Think her mic's not working.
Okay, I wasn't sure if it was me or not.
Oh,
Tia, we can't
sorry.
hear you. There you are.
I'm an observer. If I had more time, I would be trying to put together a Firewise community. I don't know if I live in Mount Shasta. I don't know if Lisa will be speaking to this, but the only tangible insurance impact, I mean, apart from the great benefits of fire fuel reduction and so forth, as far as being part of a Firewise community, I don't know if she'll be speaking to any insurance discounts or future discounts or plans that the DOI will have regarding insurance discounts or benefits for insurance. So that's what I'm listening for tonight.
Okay, thank you. Andrea?
Hi, I'm here as an observer. I'm in the Timber Hills neighborhood and just want to learn what's going on.
Great, thanks. Sarah?
Hi, Sarah Chaffee with the City of Eureka Resilience Planner.
Thanks, Sarah. And Marlena? Are you with us, Marlene?
Yeah, it helps to turn on the sound. Sorry. I'm Marlene Ludlow. I live in the Shasta Uplands. I've been here for 35 years. And, you know, I'm a part of this all. I like to see what's going on. I like to help if I can. And that's pretty much it. I want, want to find out what's going on these days.
Glad to have you here.
Thank
Jerry?
you.
Jerry?
Hi, Jerry Sullivan, just a interested homeowner trying to get more information.
Great. And then there's just a phone number we have. I don't see a name.
Hi, that might be me, Chrissy Timur. I am on the Dunsmuir Planning Commission, and I'm the Climate Adaptation Planner for Caltrans, and I'm on the Siskiyou newly created Wildfire Mitigation Coalition.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, so now I had go back and thank you everybody for that. I know it gets kind of long, but we have a big group tonight, so that's great. So we'll go into our action items and at first it's the homeowners insurance updates with Annie. I'm sorry, did we have Annie on? Did we have her on, Giselle?
I don't see her, so I just
don't either.
texted and asked if she was coming.
Okay,
Oh,
well,
yeah, she just forgot. She's going to be on.
okay, well, we'll start with Lisa then, with the California Department of Insurance, and if she has any updates for us, and then we'll come back to Annie.
Okay, great. I am going to share my screen. Oh, I just asked before, I'm just sending request if I could share my screen, please.
Giselle, are you
Giselle or Greg?
I'm sorry, what's up?
Lisa needs to share her screen.
Oh, Greg, can you take care of that? I'm trying to find Annie.
Greg, are you with us?
Okay,
Yeah,
I'll do it.
yeah, I was muted. I haven't hit that right button yet before. I'm not sure where to hit it.
Oh, okay, I'll look, see if I can do that. Okay, did that do it, Lisa?
Yes, thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
All right, so let me hit my button now. All right, do you guys see my screen?
Yes. We got it.
Okay, awesome. All right. Well, again, I'm Lisa Strange from the California Department of Insurance. And thank you for letting me be here tonight to share updates on homeowners insurance. I joined one of your meetings, I believe it was around May of last year, so almost a year. And then one of my colleagues, Duria Syed, came in November and I believe talked about the moratorium at that time. So happy to be back to kind of share updates. I'm glad we did the introductions because I was just going to, my plan was to just kind of share updates on the sustainable insurance strategy. But if I have 3 or 4 more minutes, I'd like to just kind of do a better overview of what we do, since it seems like we've got some folks that are observing. Do I have that time? Okay.
Yes, you do. Yes, please.
Okay, thank you both so much. So quickly, the role of the insurance commissioner or the Department of Insurance is that we are a consumer protection agency for the nation's largest insurance marketplace. And so all of our functions are, including all of these things you see listed here, which is essentially overseeing insurance company solvency, licensing the agents and brokers that sell insurance, resolving consumer complaints, and investigating and prosecuting insurance fraud. And so as you can see, all of those things are to protect consumers. The one thing I think it's important to mention tonight is that we do not sell insurance, and we can't require or compel insurance companies to sell to a particular person or a community. So I did just want to share that tidbit. And then I think most of us kind of know the state of insurance and where we are today, and the stress on the market that was created essentially by natural disasters and global inflation. It's important to note too that it's not just happening here, but every state's experiencing these factors to one degree or another. Things like increased costs for rebuilding, labor shortages, and then as we've seen in California, as risk increases, insurance companies are protecting their obligations to current consumers by limiting new business. And then, of course, when they limit that coverage, whether it's because of a wildfire, winter storms, or whatever, it affects everyone, even some of us that might live in low risk areas, right? It's harder to get insurance for everyone. And so what we've seen since about 2022 is that 7 of the top 12 insurance groups have paused or restricted new business despite rate increases approved or pending with the Department of Insurance. So we quickly learned that it's more than just cost. The other thing to point out as well is that the FAIR plan, which in case folks don't know, it was designed to be the insurer of last resort. And for a lot of us, it has become the insurer of first resort. The FAIR plan's not a state agency. It's a fire insurance pool comprised of property and casualty insurers. It does only cover fire, lightning, internal explosion, and smoke. So many homeowners that have this policy for fire also buy a secondary policy. Some people call it a wraparound policy, some call it a difference in conditions policy, but they buy that secondary policy to have full coverage. So you can imagine how expensive that gets. And the FAIR plan has doubled over the last couple of years to be about 4% of the market. So quickly, most of you probably have heard of this regulation that went into effect a couple years ago, but I did hear some folks say they wanted to kind of hear about discounts and whatnot. So I thought it would be important to talk about this again.
You're telling me to go back there right now?
Sorry, no, I was just reiterating the steps for everyone else. But yeah, if you want to navigate one more time, so everyone and whoever watches the recording.
Okay.
You mean yourself?
I should. So we're back on the health tracker app. We're seeing the same thing we were seeing before.
So
you want me to go through
George,
you just did?
George's iPhone. Could you? Thank you.
Projects from the settings gear. Go into the health tracker app.
Sorry, Lisa.
That's okay.
George's iPhone. Could you please mute? We can hear you speaking. Thank you.
Thank you, George.
Happens.
Yeah, it does. Even though we've been doing this for 5 years, isn't it crazy how you still get weird things with Zoom, right?
Now to go to the extra step.
Okay, there we go. All right, sorry, folks. So anyways, this regulation was passed a couple years ago, And we call it the Safer from Wildfire framework. It's basically a 3-step system designed to protect, as the screen says, your home or your business, immediate surroundings, and the whole community. So step 1's pretty straightforward. It's doing things like Class A fire rated roof, enclosed eaves, fire resistant vents, multi-pane windows, and then clearing 6-inch non-combustible vertical clearance from the bottom of the structure. Step 2 is protecting the surroundings. So folks can do things like clearing vegetation and debris from under decks and any and all movable combustible materials, removable of combustible structures, sheds, outbuildings, things like that. And then finally, step 3 is an effort to obtain a community level mitigation designation, such as a fire risk reduction community, which is a designation by the Board of Forestry, or Firewise USA site in good standing. So when you do those steps that I mentioned, your insurance company will provide you a discount. And I wanted to mention the FAIR Plan discount because the FAIR Plan's not regulated by the Department of Insurance, but not held to the Proposition 103 rules. However, they are still giving a discount to policyholders. And in fact, they've been giving up to a 10% discount on policies in participating Firewise communities since May of 2018. And they're continuing to do that, and also giving 2 more wildfire hardening discounts. So for the step 1, which was protecting your structure, if you do all of those things, you get a % for that. And then the protecting the immediate surroundings of the dwelling is another small discount. And so combined, those discounts could be up to about 14.5%. So we're really encouraging folks, if you are on the FAIR Plan, to talk to your broker and find out how you qualify and then when you could receive that discount. The other thing I wanted to share, part of the Safer from Wildfire regulation, is that it also, for the first time ever, made it mandatory for insurance companies to share our wildfire risk score with us. They've been assigning scores to our properties for quite some time, but deemed that information proprietary. And so now they have to tell us our score as well as the factors that went into creating that score. And then what that does is lets us know, first of all, did they get the right house, right? Believe it or not, we've heard of someone getting a score and then they ask for the photos and all of that, and it's the wrong house. So important to check that score when you get it, make sure it's the right house, and then that you agree with it. If you don't, we've created a right of appeal, and so you can appeal that score as well. So that's sort of kind of the Safer from Wildfire regulation. Additionally, while we were working on that, we also learned that the FAIR Plan, since so many folks were resorting to that the limits were too low. And so we did increase the limits for commercial policies to 20 million per location. And we learned that that helps sort of close that gap for a lot of our youth camps, HOAs, and other agricultural groups, things like that. So, so that is something that happened as well. Then I'm going to talk about another increase with the FAIR Plan when I speak about the sustainable insurance strategy. So that's kind of the Safer from Wildfire framework. And now the sustainable insurance strategy. So after wildfires, insurance companies typically, raise rates, stop writing policies, cancel and non-renew policies as soon as the moratorium is lifted. And that stuff is all legal under Proposition 103. So last year in December, we finalized this California Sustainable Insurance Strategy. And while we can't predict exactly what's going to happen with our rates, especially given the horrendous Los Angeles fires, Our actions will make the market more predictable, stable, and policies become more available. And so through this whole strategy, there are many actions and reforms that we are taking. It's important to note that Proposition 103 is over 3 decades old. So you can appreciate that it needed some updating in terms of the regulations and the laws around that. So first, this strategy requires insurance companies to expand their coverage in high-risk areas if they want to use new risk management tools. And through that will help us reverse the trend of a growing FAIR plan, as I explained, why that is problematic, having such a huge number of policyholders in the FAIR plan. And so it'll help us kind of close some of that insurance gap. And so last summer, we released a draft statewide map showing areas where wildfire risk and FAIR plan policies are concentrated. So I'll go over that map in just a few minutes. So the second component to this strategy is how we're addressing the climate crisis. And so, as you might know, California is the only state that requires the use of historical wildfire data in rate making. So the department is allowing the utilization of forward-looking catastrophe models, which will take into consideration wildfire safety, mitigation, fuel reduction. I heard in the introductions that someone spends their whole time doing, fuel reduction, right? So this new CAT modeling that we will allow insurers to use will take into consideration all of that, as well as efforts taken by federal, state, and local governments, property owners, communities, utility companies. So insurance companies will increase their writing of policies because they can better anticipate future losses rather than just non-renewing high-risk policyholders or pausing writing altogether. So that's one tool. And then the other element or tool is to allow California-only reinsurance costs. Essentially, reinsurance is insurance for insurers. It helps insulate themselves from part of the risk of a major claims event. And so under this whole agreement, this strategy, companies that want to use those tools, the CAT modeling or the reinsurance, must agree to increase and maintain writing policies in wildfire distressed areas of California. Also wanted to point out regarding the reinsurance costs, that's important to note that those costs are only for California. So it's California only net reinsurance costs. And what that really means for us is that we won't be paying for disasters that don't happen here. For example, East Coast hurricanes or Midwest tornadoes, things like that. So that's important. I also wanted to just kind of highlight for all of us that we have commitments from some of the big carriers that we've heard of, Allstate, Farmers, AAA, that once they can use these tools, they will begin starting to write policies again in California. And in fact, I also have Butte County as part of my territory, and Mercury has begun writing policies in the town of Paradise. So that's exciting for them. And then the other thing, as I mentioned earlier, the FAIR plan a year or so ago, or actually it was more than that. I think it was in 2023, a couple years ago. I mentioned that they expanded their limits to 20 million per location. And now through this modernization and this strategy, they will expand their coverage to 20 million per structure. So if you have, let's say, an HOA with, 4 or 5 buildings, you can insure each building for 20 million, up to 100 million. So that again is going to further close some of those gaps that we know about from our HOAs, affordable housing, and agricultural businesses. And then lastly, this strategy We have streamlined and improved our rate application approval process. So anytime an insurance company wants to change the way that they underwrite, they have to submit a packet to us, and we have to review it. We have a whole slew of actuaries, and it's a big process. And so we have streamlined that process to create more certainty in the market and just really, like I said, make that process go faster. So, all right. And so, as I mentioned, I was going to talk briefly about the maps that were created last summer. And these are draft maps that were released. And they show wildfire distressed areas, which have been defined as places where wildfires are more likely to happen. And it's hard for those consumers to find insurance coverage except from the FAIR plan. Distressed areas have three components. They are in parts of California where wildfire is a threat, where insurance companies have reduced or restricted writing policies, and where there is a high concentration of FAIR plan policies. And so, as I said, we developed this statewide map kind of showing where wildfire risk and FAIR plan policies are concentrated. And as you can see, I heard there was some folks in Shasta as well, but so here's Siskiyou County, which is identified that area of high concentration of FAIR plan policies and wildfire risk. And because California has a complex geography, the department took a hybrid approach to include many areas of the state. And so, and I'll put these links in the chat if I have that ability to do so. But essentially, we have a list of zip codes, and that list has been defined as distressed areas that are included that have a FAIR plan penetration rate of 15% or greater, and include high or very high wildfire hazard as defined by CAL FIRE. And then we have a list of counties, which there's about 28 counties, where insurance companies have rated more than 20% of properties at high or very high risk. And then finally wanted to mention that FAIR plan policies outside of highly distressed areas, we also have pockets of those that exist in nearly every county. And the low risk urban areas kind of dilute that overall percentage. So to target new policies where the problems are, insurance companies will take back FAIR plan policies into the traditional market. Again, as I mentioned, we do have a preliminary list of zip codes, and both for residential and commercial, and then a list of counties for residential, and I can put those links in the chat. And then just lastly, before I wrap up, I wanted to just share or remind some of you and share for others that don't know about all the online tools on our website to help folks find insurance if you do receive a non-renewal notice or purchase a new place and need to find insurance. We have on our website the top 10 tips for finding residential insurance. And then this tool, the Home Insurance Finder tool, I really like this tool because when you go into it and plug in the area that you're looking for, there's a little box at the bottom that says something like, check here if you want, if you're looking for insurance in a high risk region. And then that will help narrow your search, and it provides contact numbers for 8 licensed agents and brokers in your area that may be selling insurance. So again, these tools can be very helpful for folks. And then just lastly, as I wrap up, wanted to share the various ways that you can reach us. We do answer questions on any line of insurance. Tonight, I know we're speaking mostly about homeowners, but if you have any question about another line of insurance, you can feel free to call our toll-free number. We have a consumer live chat, myriad of ways to reach us. The one thing I wanted to share, though, is if you do have a specific question on your policy, you will be asked to fill out what we call a request for assistance. And what that does is gives us the permission to kind of work with the insurance company on your behalf. So it allows us to obtain respective guidelines from your carrier. And so we can really just kind of dive in and see, make sure everyone's following the laws and everything is compliant with their guidelines. So that's what that second bullet is here. And again, if you have any questions, you can feel free to call our hotline or use our live chat. So that concludes my presentation. And I don't know if we want to hear from Annie and then kind of take insurance questions all together. It's up to you, but thank you so much.
Thank
I'd
you.
like to ask a question, Lisa.
Uh-huh.
When are they anticipating that this will be active, that we'll start seeing results from the strategies?
Yeah, that's a great question. I just got some confirmation. So what we're doing is we are accepting applications for CAT models now. I think we've received 4. And so then once that process is done, which we're thinking by summertime, then we will begin accepting rating plans, which would include reinsurance and the CAT modeling. So in reality, folks, it's probably, probably another, I don't know, maybe beginning of 2026.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's important for you guys to hear that. That was kind of my take on it, but I don't keep up enough, as much as I love seeing Lisa and we love doing events together. I don't always get to see them enough during the winter months as I do in the summer months.
Yeah. Unfortunately, nothing moves quickly enough, right? But we also want to get it right. And so I think there's a certain level of things that are required to get it right, including public workshops, so we can hear from all of you and all of that. So while I wish I could say it would be effective April 1st,
we'd know it would be April Fool's.
There you go.
There is 2 questions for you, Lisa, from Tia. So Tia, if you want to go ahead and ask your questions.
Oh, no, your presentation pretty much covered it. In terms of how we're attracting more insurers back into the state, you already said that the rate approval process would be expedited, because I know State Farm had cited a 2-year wait as part of the reason that it was difficult for them to do business and led them to drop some policies. I did have one small question. February 6th, Commissioner Lara released basically a request for carriers to accommodate a fast settlement on personal property without making people go through a painful inventory process. So that was a request. Is there any talk of that going into a regulation? I don't see how that could be enforced, because the contract, the insurance policy is the contract and it's stipulated. But I was just wondering if there's any more teeth that's going to come of that request.
That's a great question. And so we sent out a press release, and I believe the press release had a list of the carriers that have agreed to do that, and a couple that aren't, because as you said, it isn't law that they have to do that. But I did get a packet of legislative bills today where they are trying to make that law. So there is a bill, and I can tell you the number in case folks want to follow it through the process.
I do. Thank you.
Yes, just give me 2 seconds. I think it's SB 485, but 495. Oh, see, I'm glad I looked. Senate Bill 495 is called Eliminate the List Act. And so, as I said, that's some sponsored legislation that we may want to follow through and kind of see if it does become law and what that does for consumers.
Well, thank you so much, Lisa. That's all I needed.
Okay, thank you, Tia.
All right, we don't have any other questions directly for Lisa. We'll move on to Annie, if you want to introduce
Actually,
yourself.
I have one.
Okay.
I obviously am not a very experienced homeowner in the insurance world directly, personally. But how does something like the LA fires affect especially the FAIR plan, but the insurance industry as a whole, being, in our state, obviously. And, you talked a little bit about that in the beginning of your presentation, just, the increased losses. But this one being so unprecedented, how to like it, yeah, how does that affect should we expect to see anything down river from that?
Yeah, so the FAIR plan does have a big payout for the policies in LA. And so it may be that, so the way they pay their claims is they've got their, oh, what do you want to call it? Is it profit? What do you call the first level of payment, Annie? I'm drawing a total blank.
I don't know.
Reserves or something. I'll find the name by the end of this. But so they've got their money that they pay that they have to be able to pay claims, the profits, and then they can use their reinsurance. They have reinsurance, so then they can use the money from that. And then if they still need more money to pay the claims, they would assess the member companies. And if they have to do that, then that is a charge to consumers. Because as I mentioned, the FAIR plan is made up of member companies of property and casualty carriers. So if they do have to assess those companies, there would be a charge to consumers for that. And I don't know how much that is. That hasn't actually been done for years. So, which is the other reason, in my opinion, but also I think it's kind of factual, that we really need to get people off the FAIR plan and get them back into a traditional policy, right? So
and the
I'm
other
sorry to
piece of that, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm so sorry to interject, but with the losses of the Pacific Palisades fire, which really heavily impacted non-admitted insurers such as Lloyd's of London, I only imagine that the FAIR plan reserves are going to be heavily impacted, depending on how many of those wealthy people had the FAIR plan. Is there anywhere that a consumer could anticipate or look up how heavy the burden was on FAIR and whether any of those assessments or fees to consumers would be rolling down the pike?
yes, let me look. We have on our website, we have it is called the LA County Wildfire Claims Tracker. It's right on the homepage. It's a turquoise bar across the a banner, and it tells us how much money has been paid to date, how many claims partially paid, how many claims filed. So let me see if that's broken down. Doesn't look like it's broken down by FAIR plan. So it's just a total 12.1 billion claims paid to date, and that's as of March 5th, so about a week ago. But as I said, I don't know how much of that is FAIR plan, but I might be able to get something like that for you, and I can shoot it off to Kristen to share out if that's okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
When you say fees, so do you mean there's going to be like a one-time additional fee leveraged, or is it just going to be like an overall rate increase, or both?
I think it's just a one-time fee.
Okay. Has that ever been done before? I've never heard of that.
I don't think so. I had some information the last time, 1994. I think they had to dive into the second bucket of money, but I don't recall them having to do this, right, Annie?
I believe you're correct. I think they call this an assessment.
Assessment.
And they will assess us to shore up the California FAIR plan is what it comes down to. It'll go through the insurance companies that write for the California FAIR plan, but the trickle down effect will be us. Now, the interesting part about this is that the Palisades fire, obviously, well, I shouldn't say obviously, the Palisades fire is not being investigated as a power company start. The Eaton fire is. And so there'll be a lawsuit. And in the lawsuits, generally what happens is the insurance companies get the first bite. So they get paid out. And that's where we have to do some lobbying, quite frankly. Because if they get it happened in my fire. And, they got paid first. And then we kind of got trumped on a little bit. And So I think that that's something that we really all have to look into. But I also think that, you know, from what I've heard about these fires in LA, and I've been down there 4 times now working it, is that, you know, Lisa's giving you dollar figures, but people aren't, you know, insurance claims don't just get paid out. They get incrementally paid. And you know, the big thing about hoping that your contents gets paid 100%, hoping that that becomes law, is primarily because it's painful to do that list. But also, it's painful. It'll be painful when they don't have that option, because the insurance companies will just drop that coverage down. Most people have to use a bit of that coverage to recreate what they had. And so it's kind of a double-edged sword in many ways.
Okay, Giselle, you had your hand up.
Yeah, Dale had a question, but if I know Annie has to go, so I don't know if there's time to answer his question, but
Yeah, Annie,
No,
you roll.
go ahead. You go ahead. It's fine.
Well, I wanted to ask back to Lisa about this. What is it going to take for the state of California to grow some horsepower to get a substantial reduction on insurance mandated by the state of California to insurance companies for those people who live in low ISO areas, for those people who have certified wildfire protection zones about them, those that have also certified by their fire department as being fire safe, meeting the Public Resource Code 4291 or comparable legislation. Because I know many, many people in Siskiyou County for the last 25 years work very, very hard to get their properties and that of their neighbors and their neighborhoods feel reduced, and yet there's no reprieve for getting discounts from their insurance companies.
Yeah, I know, Dale, I know. And what we say to that right now is that obviously by doing all that work, you're protecting your home from a fire. So that's great. We want people to keep doing that. And then I know for the folks that are doing it, they're like, well, where's my discount because I've done that? And you know, that's what the Safer from Wildfire framework was designed to do, is give folks a discount for all of that work. But right at that same time, right after that regulation was passed, then there was, you know, whole slew of other things that happened, cost, labor shortages, cost to rebuild, and all of that has just really affected the insurance industry, not even just with homeowners, also auto and everything. I mean, gosh, it seems like everything is going up around us, not even just insurance, and it's happening across the United States. So in terms of affordability, if I'm being honest with you, I don't know that costs will ever be, quote, what they were, sadly. What we're working on now is availability. We want folks to be able to buy a policy through an insurance company and not have to rely on the FAIR plan. So that's kind of where we're headed now, Dale.
But what will it take for the insurance commission to incentivize people doing substantial fuel reduction work on their properties and that of their neighborhoods?
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, what was the question?
What will it take for the Insurance Commission of California to incentivize residents, citizens to continue to do fuel reduction, substantial fuel reduction, and make their homes and neighborhoods safe? There has got to be an economic incentive. Or what I've recognized in the 25 plus years I've been involved with Fire Safe Council endeavors, people won't do it.
Yeah.
That's a really tough one for Lisa to answer.
It's tough, and we hear it, and
yeah,
I don't know.
Well, let's look at Malibu. I think they know, because I've been down there 3 times as a firefighter, and Every time I go down there, it's the same thing, the same country burning over and over and over. And some of those people keep rebuilding. And why are we paying for all the losses in Southern California? Really, we should divide it at Sacramento. Cut it right across. Northern California should be considered different than Southern California. We should not be paying for these multi-billion-dollar or even trillion-dollar losses cumulatively over the last 50 years of Southern California.
Most of them have private insurance. So anyway, I would like to know, are the insurance companies most likely going to ask us to have more insurance due to the tariffs and like how much it's going to cost to rebuild? Is that going to have a big effect, you think?
I'm going to take that one from you, Lisa.
Thank you, Anne.
The way I see it
Yeah.
is that that's going to be up to you. Because basically, if you lose your home in a catastrophic loss, will you have enough to rebuild? We're doing a webinar right now on, underinsurance and, and unless your insurance company in most cases does something very wrong, you have something in writing, the underinsurance is very hard to prove. And they really have put the onus on the consumer. When I got back into my house in 2018, farmers had me sign a statement saying that I had been advised to talk to a contractor about what it would take to rebuild my home now.
Right.
And so, unless you have a mortgage that is high, your insurance company in all likelihood will let you have whatever insurance you want in the lowball scheme.
Well,
but will it replace your home? That's going to be the that's going to be the issue.
It would have a month or so ago, but if there's really tariffs at 25% for wood and all that, it might make a huge difference.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I've
So
been
is that something we should be considering in
yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. I don't know where we're going on all this.
Yeah.
I think that we'd have to have a Ouija board, but these poor people in LA are struggling with underinsurance, and then to cap on that, we have no idea what builders can actually secure, because that's what's happening with a lot of them is they're trying to figure out before this all just blows up, how they can rent warehouses and secure the components of a rebuild so that they can actually give the consumer a solid price of what it's going to cost. And if they can't do that, that's going to be a huge struggle.
Right.
Well, and
So-
contractor rates, that was a big thing for the car fire, and then the campfire happening so soon after that was, the contractors' rates were 2, 3, 4 times higher than normal because there was such high demand. And so, the contractors were coming from all over the nation and even the world.
Yeah. And you get a certain amount of scammers, you get a certain amount of all sorts of different issues. But, in a lot of these communities, I try to express to people, because at this stage in the LA fires, they're just, survivors have this anxiety that just spins in the middle of their chest. So they're through the shock part, but now it's God, am I going to have enough? And nobody can tell them that. But we have to really start looking more at modular homes. We have to look at production builders who can come in with 8 floor plans, do economy of scale, and then all those soft costs of architecture, the soil analysis, all of that kind of stuff would be spread out. And that's what a community like you would struggle with. You would have to go out and find a builder, if you had that kind of a loss, who was willing to do that kind of thing. And I mean, that would be the most economical. But it remains to be seen. You know, I read the paper as little as I can, and it seems like the things that I read are up and down. Now we're doing this, now we're backing off. And so I think that all of that remains to be seen. But I will also share with you that I have a call into my agent to say I'd like to raise my dwelling coverage.
Okay, that's good to know. Thank you. That's yeah.
There's a couple great suggestions in the chat. I don't know if you can get in there, Marlene. But Tia's got some great things in there. Thank you, Tia. You are very knowledgeable. Great resource. And then Josh has a question for Annie. Is it possible to get information about that United Policyholders webinar on the underinsurance issue?
Yep. And that deals with mostly, and I asked him for his email because I can send him a copy of the recording in a couple days when we're doing it live right now. But that is generally for how people try to prove that they're underinsured and that it was either a mistake by their insurer or, you know, it's a little different component than what any of you are dealing with since you don't have a loss. But in the big picture, you need to be up on that, and you need to make sure that, and I know the struggle's real. You know, Altadena, Pasadena, Palisades we're all challenged with getting quote unquote normal insurance. So many of them were on the California Fair Plan because they lived in a high risk area. And it's really easy to say that that some of those people have money, and some do. But when you're on the California Fair Plan, you might have a house that you bought for $3 million. And it may cost $6 million to rebuild it. And the California Fair Plan is only going to cover $3 million total. They have a cap. And so those people are struggling too. And we have not been able to come up with a way to take property out of people's hands, kind of thankfully, and tell them that even though they owned it, they can't build on it, even though their families had it for 150 years. And I kind of get that. I wouldn't want that done to me. But I also understand, you know, we keep doing it over and over again like we're stupid. We do. And this is what you get when you get me, guys. I try to tell you the truth.
No,
that's a good thing.
Yeah, we want to hear the truth. But that was a big, I mean, my neighborhood that burned down in the car fire, very, very few, way less than half rebuilt for that exact reason. Because even they thought they had really good insurance. They were not just getting the bare bone, you know, lowball insurance. And these were like, you know, fairly well off, young families with kids, retirees all across the board. And they wanted to rebuild and they could not make it pencil out with the insurance, and they couldn't afford to pay all the difference out of pocket, and so no one rebuilt. And then no one could sell their lot.
That's a huge challenge.
Yeah.
It's a huge challenge. And in all these areas, there's a lot of generational housing also, especially in rural areas. And so those people may not even know what the mill fire. I had a young man come up to me and he said, "What do you do?" And I told him, and I said, "Did you have insurance?" And his answer, which the table next to me started laughing, which I wanted to kick him. He said, "Well, it's my grandma's house. Of course it has insurance. She would have had insurance." And I said, "Okay, so did she file a claim?" And he said, "I don't know. She's been dead for 10 years.
Oh, God.
And that just shows you that the educational piece is imperative to in this entire thing. So the more people that we can teach, you know, what you can charge to different buckets of your money, why it's so important. Most of us here probably had to get a loan, therefore we're required to have insurance, so you had to learn about it. But if the house has been handed down, then you have another challenge there. Okay, does everybody have their pens out? I don't know if this is going to work in your area. Transverse, Transverse. Bamboo. And Delos, Delos. Now, I've only heard of one of these three, but we heard from somebody in the know that they possibly are opening up and writing more insurance in rural areas. And we've also heard that Mercury is writing in certain areas. And I really want to give Lisa a round of applause because, you know, basically Paradise got together and invited the Department of Insurance in to show how much work they'd done, how, you know, they'd had grant programs for the 5 feet around the house rock, and they had to sell it to them. They had to show them, because everybody has a vision of what Paradise is, but not of where they've gone. And and that's been really beneficial, and they're going to keep plugging away at that. And I think that so Lisa, great job. That couldn't have been easy, but that, you know, I think we need more of that. We need more of us fighting for what we deserve. And as for incentivizing people to do all the work, which I totally get. I live with my guy now, and we don't live rural, but he has almost 2 acres. And I'm continuously giving us that 5 feet. I'm continuously saying those tree limbs have to come down, because I do not want to go through another fire. I don't want to lose everything. I don't want to be traumatized again. And I don't want to lose my community. And so that's my motivation, having gone through it. And I don't know how you pass that along to people who haven't been through it, because really so many things in life you have to live through to be able to react to it. Make sure your alerts are really good. If you guys are going to pound on anything, those emergency alerts. In LA, they had a failure in that. But guess what was across the front of their screen? And I know you guys don't have great internet all the time. Neither did Altadena all the time. But on their Office of Emergency Services, their middle screen, and if you've never seen the Office of Emergency Services, it's like a orchestra pit, and everybody's sitting there with 3 screens, and then you have 3 computer screens, and then you have 3 big screens up top. Well, the middle one was Watch Duty. They were going off of Watch Duty because Watch Duty has created such a valuable tool. So, how does that equate for you guys? I'm sure that there's many of you guys that don't have internet that's reliable, right? Hit and miss. So that's a challenge. And whether that means, some areas have gotten, and I know I'm speaking too long. Sorry, guys, I'll wrap it up. I know that many of the communities have gone to ham radios. They've gone to someone who has good internet relaying to everybody else, and then somebody in that community being responsible for 4 or 5 homes or whatever that looks like. I think that is our biggest challenge. Insurance is a huge challenge. That's our number one asset. But if we don't even get out, that's much more impactful.
Yeah, Annie, I'd like to add something to what you were talking about with the cost of insurance or the cost of rebuilding after a fire. It's not only the cost, but the time limit. And I think that's an educational piece that people don't understand with the limited amount of contractors, especially over when a fire is over a large area. It's not 6 months or a year. It's years for rebuilding. Even our neighbors to the north in Talent, Oregon, that pretty much took out the whole town in Phoenix. It is 5 years now, and they're still rebuilding. And they're not rebuilding a lot of houses. They're building apartment type buildings,
which are even harder to insure.
Yeah, a big change in that. But I think people think, well, if I have a fire, I have insurance, my house will be rebuilt and I'll have a new home in 6 months. And that's just not the case anymore.
No, in LA, they're looking at a year for debris removal. It might be expedited, but that's what the time limit that they're putting on it, the time frame. In 2018, after my fire, some of our fire survivors went to the Capitol steps, and they got loss of use, or ALE. If you have California Fair Plan, that is fair rental value, increased to up to 3 years in a declared disaster. So normally you have up to 24 months, and then this added an extension of up to 6 months, and then they could extend it 6 months more. And that's a huge informational piece, educational piece, because if you don't have enough money in that bucket to cover it, then you run out. So we have to make sure that people do understand. And I think that, it depends on where you are. It depends on how huge of a disaster it is and how creative the communities get. And quite frankly, the underinsurance or lack of insurance. Coffee Park, we lost 1,440 homes. There was 6,000 homes lost in that fire. Our area in Coffee Park rebuilt. We were at the 4.5-year mark. We were at 99.9% rebuilt. And you can flash forward to Paradise, which was just a year after us, and after 6 years, they're at 30%. And they're not expecting more. They're expecting that they have to lure people into their community because of the lack of insurance. That is the major component in all of this. So it's real. And if you run out of loss of use, you're now paying your rent and your mortgage at the same time. And that's impossible for most people.
This is Jenny Coelho. I have a question. Is it up to the landowner to do that increase and call the insurance company, or does the insurance companies ever come out appraisals like every 5 years in an area? Now they do that for commercial, they do that for cities. We have to, with the insurance that we're with, we have an appraisal every 5 years. And so we supposedly would have enough coverage if something happened. But for the regular homeowner, what are their options?
Well, quite frankly, and anything you want to jump into, Lisa, feel free. Quite frankly, it depends on who your insurer is. I'm with Farmers, and every year they call me and ask me if I'd like to have a farmers friendly review. And I don't take that review every year. I take it because my home's paid off, because I don't, even though my home has our whole neighborhood is burnt. We are not in a high fire risk zone. They didn't expect us to burn. So our insurance is not outrageous. And I review it every 2 years, and I overinsure myself each time because I can afford to do that because I don't have a house payment. And I'm not on the California Fair Plan at $8,000, $10,000, whatever you folks are paying. So circling back around, Jenny, actually, it's on you. You need to be your own best advocate in this. Because at the end of the day, you're the one that's going to suffer the loss and have it impact your future financial status.
Okay, thank you.
And Annie, Josh had a question about, can they get information about the webinar for underinsured homeowners?
Yeah, and I took his email down and I'm gonna
Oh.
send it to him. It'll take us a couple days to get it up because they
Okay.
were just finishing up when I popped over here.
Okay, thank you. And do I have any other questions for Annie or Lisa? I know it's a hot topic and I know it's a frustrating topic.
I was just gonna see if they had any insight into the state of affairs in Oregon. Because when I was at the Tule Lake Fair last September, a lot of fair goers are from Oregon, and I was shocked to hear that their insurance situation is actually way worse than California. I mean, people said they were getting quotes of $30,000 a year for their premiums, and I was just like,
Well,
wait.
you offered to drag me to that fair because I had just done your guys's.
Right.
I'm glad I didn't go.
It just makes, you can't help but think, is that the direction we're headed? Because that's, can't even wrap my brain around that $30,000 a year,
I think it's hard to know. I can't even predict that. Quite frankly, I tried to play that out in my mind, how that would affect California, and houses won't sell, which we're already starting to see. People won't want to be homeowners. They don't want to dump all their life savings into buying a home. And, my son's 35, he and his wife, and they've saved up a good chunk of money to buy a home because they live in my rebuilt homes and pay a small amount of rent. And I told them, you're not, until the insurance situation gets rectified, I don't want you to take all your hard-earned money and dump it into a house if you don't know if you can get insurance or if you can afford the insurance. Home ownership in Santa Rosa, they won't get anything cheaper than $800,000. And so I don't want them to blow their money. But I'm just really hopeful that we'll have some resolution, because everybody can't be a renter. Somebody has to own that home for us to live in. And when I started that spiral down into that whole thought process, I kind of went, okay, we can't do that. So that's just my nerdy brain.
Well, we're grateful for all the work that Lisa and the Department of Insurance is doing to keep that from happening.
Yeah. And Lisa has a tough job because she's the face of the insurance, the Department of Insurance. But I always feel for you guys because it's always a tough room wherever you go. And, we try to work very closely with the Department of Insurance and make sure that we have a good rapport, because they listen to us when we say, in LA, smoke damage is huge and they're not wanting to pay. I mean, we constantly are like in their ear with what the challenges are in an area, trying to push the ticket for the consumer. And a lot of the times they listen and they do what they can do.
I think might have been UP, Annie, that told us that they were hearing, because you've been down in LA for so long, so many times, right? I think someone was telling us that if your house wasn't a total loss and just suffered smoke damage, insurers are telling you to move back in. Well, yes. What? There's
yes, no. And those people would come to my table.
Yeah.
And their eyes would be all red, and you could tell they were like sick.
Yeah.
And they'd say, but they're not giving me any loss of use. So the Department of Insurance stepped up and said, if the house is inhabitable, then they need to get loss of use. And then they made the criteria for what was inhabitable. But so many of these people were having to go back, and some even taking their children because they didn't have the resources. One couple sat in front of me and said, we've maxed out our credit card with hotel rooms.
Yeah, we had to fight to get that covered on our claim because our house was like one of the very few that didn't burn. And we had little toddlers and newborn babies, and they weren't, you know, and it costs $6,000-7,000 to have the super deep clean done for smoke damage. But we,
wanna
you
know
know, we had
what
to
that
fight for it.
costs now?
I'm sure it's
Costs,
double.
60 to 80,000 is the
Oh.
numbers that we're getting.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that makes 6,000.
And that's not with replacing windows or having any damage to the outside per se. That's with having to take out the insulation, do a deep cleaning, and then figuring out what's salvageable and what's not salvageable.
Well,
yeah.
All right.
So-
On that note, unless we
On
have
that
any specific
note.
questions, because we do have more, but I really want to thank both Annie and Lisa being here. We appreciate it when you guys show up. Great information, even if we're not happy with the state of insurance. We understand where you're at, and we do appreciate any information you can give us in appearing tonight. So thank you very much.
I ditto that, and thank you, Annie, for responding and being so good to catch up with us, even though I forgot to send you the link.
It's all good. Thank you. I just would like to tell you that if anybody in this group, do not divulge those 3 names of insurance until you see that one of you was successful at it, because we don't want to give people false hope. But I would like to, if one of you is able to manage that and get insurance through one of these companies, I'd love to hear about it, because we like to track that so that we can advise other areas. And you're the first ones I've told.
All right, we're gonna now move on to some other information. And I don't know if the Klamath has any information on this. Jen, I'm gonna put you on the spot. The Klamath River Basin Wildfire Crisis Strategy Landscape.
Yeah, I don't have an update from them tonight.
Okay, so they're kind of on a pause. We'll just say it that way.
Yes, that's a fine way to say it.
Okay. All right. Community Wildfire Defense Grant. Well, the CWDG, we're on a pause as well, except that we have a little bit more flexibility within ourselves. And so we are continuing to move forward for the next couple months with home assessments. And but what's really on pause is any of the work to be done in the communities for hazard reduction, egress and ingress and that kind of stuff. And because of money, because what's paused for us is money coming in from the CWDG grant. If you don't know, when we get a grant, it doesn't, especially from the federal government, from the Forest Services, it does not come to us in one lump sum. So even though we got originally a $10 million grant, they did not give us $10 million to put in our bank to spend. And so we have to invoice it out after we do work, and then they pay us. And we don't have, so we don't have that in the bank, but working with CORE, we're able to take the next couple months and still get the home assessments done and get our contracts ready and to be ready to do the work if and when the pause for our grant lifts. In Giselle or anybody else can add to that?
Well, that's spot on, Jamie. Yeah. So these are reimbursement grants, as Jamie said. So we do the work, we're billed by our contractors, then we put it in the queue. And if everything goes well, they put it in shortly. It's the USDA Forest Service is really good about turning it around. So, but at this time, we have to use our reserves to continue on. So we can only continue with assessments, as she said, and not contractor work. So if there's some contractors out there that are waiting because we've promised we would send out requests for proposals, we still will. but they said up to 90 days, and I'm trusting, and in 90 days, we can start sending out requests for proposals, and folks can start looking forward to doing some work and earning some money. So anyway, that's kind of where we're at. And Josh, I'll tag you on this.
Hey, thanks, Giselle. Yeah, report from home assessments. We started last July, and as of now, we're hitting that 100 mark. So we're around 98. This year, Greg and I have performed 34. We've had a little interruptions with the weather. And then just a reminder, these home assessments are free. These are private reports, and they're only recommendations that were given out. So we'll show up on site. We'll look at the home hardening components of your home, the roof, the windows, what materials the house is comprised of. And then we'll also look at your defensible space and the home ignition zones. It's an organized, user-friendly report, and I will plug information into the chat for those that are interested. But that's what I have. Thanks.
And Josh and Greg can do it with the homeowner and walk around and talk to them while that's happening, or they can do it on their own. It's all up to the homeowner what their comfort level is. And yeah, and it's free. We keep trying to press that issue. So any homeowners out there, contact us and we will get you on the list. We have a priority list of communities we're doing, but because of this pause and stuff, we're having a little change of pace. And so we're taking people who at this point who are opening themselves up and want to have this assessment done. We'll get you on the list. All right, any questions on the CWDG? All right, then we will move on to Forest Service update, and I'm bringing you back, Jen Klamath, to start.
So I want to back up for a second. I was thinking about what you asked me about the Klamath River Basin, and one of the big things that they did and are doing is overseeing agreements with some of our partners to do fuels reduction. So that's like the California Deer Association and the Wild Turkey Association. And we did recently get news that that work that is also being funded by BIL and the IIJA, they're calling it now, which is the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. So that did get unfrozen or approved for us to start using again for our partners to be using to implement fuels reduction work on the ground. So that's new this week. So that's good news for everybody. So they are still overseeing those agreements and stuff with that. So they're not totally paused. Other news, we sold a couple timber sales last week, one up by Lovers Camp, and the timber sale portion of that is aiming to be completed in 2 years. The other one is out by Ore Mountain. We have been doing a lot of pile burning actually out on the Goose Nest. So there's been some ongoing juniper reduction work out there. And so we've been burning mostly piles around the Old State Highway area. That juniper reduction work is going to continue as part of the Harlan project, and that's with the California Deer Association. We have been also burning north of Wairika here on the Craggy project, burning piles. That smoke has been visible from town here. And tomorrow up north of Happy Camp in Indian Creek area, we'll be burning some machine piles as well. So we've been pretty busy doing that. And then we're also working on our plans for underburning this spring. And hopefully we'll have a press release out in the next couple of weeks detailing where we're looking at working. We received a disaster supplement funding package for the McKinney fire. And that money is expressly for use within the McKinney fire footprint. That's going to be going towards infrastructure, so roads, any structures in the footprint. You know, like we have a lookout that needs some work. Collins Balding needs some work out there. And so we've got some funding for that. And that also includes some revegetation. So that's good news for us. Also, let's see, the Shasta and the Klamath National Forests are working on a programmatic prescribed burning and fuels reduction analysis that's forest wide. And we should be having a proposed action for that soon for public comment. So basically what that means is, you know, we don't really have to go through this very detailed NEPA process each time we want to do fuels reduction. So it's being done on the front end for the entirety of the Klamath and Shasta Trinity National Forests. So that will help us increase our pace with implementation of these projects. Also, we are evaluating natural ignitions in wilderness for this fire season. We're working on a decision tree that we'll be sharing with the public. So that's something that we're working on with our neighbors also that share wilderness areas with us, like the Shasta Trinity and the Six Rivers National Forest. Let's see. Last one is on RAC update. And we sent a nomination packet in with multiple people who applied to be on the RAC, and it is still in Washington. So we have had no word on that. In the meantime, the rest of our members have expired, their tenures expired, and we can't work on any recruitment until the new forms are released that have different verbiage in them from the new administration. So that's continuing to remain on hold. But you know, that packet is still up there waiting for approval. So we're keeping our fingers crossed that we'll hear from them soon. That's all I've got. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Jen. And for the Shasta T, Joe, are you giving us an update tonight?
Yes, I am. And looks like hopefully my camera will hold out with my internet. So I'll be speaking about the two ranger districts that I'm responsible for in the Shasta Trinity, which are the Mount Shasta and McLeod ranger districts. So we're in the early planning stages right now for two new projects in the area. One is going to be called Ash Creek. It is a fuels reduction wildfire resiliency project out near to the east of McLeod in the Ash Creek area, kind of along the corridors, the roads of Pilgrim Creek Road. It includes Esperanza Road and then Highway 89. So kind of in that triangle that those roads formed, and then further out to the east. It's about, at this moment, we're planning on it being around 24,000 acres. Again, really, really early planning effort, but that's going to be our next high priority project on the unit. And we'll be moving through the NEPA process this year on that one. Another project we're beginning to prepare for, more of a little bit longer term, but it should be of interest to anyone in the Mount Shasta area, is our Mackenzie Butte project. It's currently estimated to be between 15,000, maybe up to 18,000 acres. We'll have to see what the final is on the, after we undergo the planning efforts on it. It is a wildfire resiliency project, forest restoration project as well on the south and on the eastern and southern slopes of Mount Shasta, adjacent to the city of Mount Shasta. It would connect to our McBride project and also down to the Highway 89 project, where you can see all that great roadside work that's been done down there. So trying to make connections to our previous work and reduce wildfire risk for local communities. So both of these projects will include opportunities for the public to participate and provide feedback as we undergo the NEPA process over the next year, maybe longer for the Mackenzie Butte project. We also previously spoke about the Satitla National Monument, that new national monument that was designated out towards the east. I don't have any updates on the monument at this moment. It's going to take some time as well before we know more about it and how it will be managed into the future. So for on-the-ground implementation activities, we continue to conduct fuels reduction activities across the 2 ranger districts, with both prescribed burning and pile burning planned for this spring in areas around McLeod and also within our South Fork Sacramento project area. The South Fork project area is a 16,000 acre wildfire risk reduction project that's located to the east of Interstate 5 and to the east of the city of Mount Shasta. Plan on doing some work up by Castle Lake later this spring as well. And then for fire staffing going into fire season, our staffing is looking pretty good. We're at average fire staffing for this time of year, and we're hoping to continue to bring on more fire staff in the coming months. So those are the updates I have, pending any questions you may have.
Yeah, Joe, the proposed national monument, where again would that be and how big?
So it was actually designated in maybe the middle of January or so by President Biden. Don't quote me on this. On the acres, I believe the final acreage was about 220,000 acres. It covers a portion of kind of the out by it crosses over onto the Klamath National Forest, the Modoc, and a small portion on Shasta Trinity in the Medicine Lake Highlands area.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, so those are any questions then for our Forest Service folks? Then we'll move on to CAL FIRE, and who is going to give an update, Kevin or Jeremy?
Well, if my device is working here, I'll give it. I don't know if you guys can hear me or not.
Yep.
All right, I've been testing out Starlink. I traveled from Siskiyou County to Shasta County since we've been in this meeting. I'm sitting in my driveway right now, but thanks to technology, we can do this stuff, be 2 places at once. Something to report outside the uniform that I want a previous speaker, Delos. So again, I'm speaking as a private citizen. I was dropped for being in a high fire severity zone here in Shasta County. And I went through a local broker named Goose Nest here in Redding, and Delos did pick me up after being dropped. Just a tidbit for everybody. And then another question about insurance and carrying enough. So I have USAA, and they hit me up twice a year to see if I want to increase my coverage. So I think if we encumber that work upon ourselves, if you go sniffing it out, you can evaluate your own property for that stuff. So again, that's just speaking as a private citizen.
That's great. I
Back
will
to
relay that to Annie. She wanted to know if anyone had been successful. I will let her know. That's good news.
Yeah, that was Delos. Moving on to wearing the agency hat. I'll put it back on here for a moment. Looking forward, leaning into what we will call fire season and what's to come. Probably due to some of the activity that we experienced in past years and then January as well. Some equipment be coming back. We look like we'll probably potentially get the contract helicopter back in under our use. It's not for sure yet or not, because we have the C-130 Hercules that are coming online, and those helicopters were to supplement that initially, but we'll see how that goes. We're planning accordingly. This is one that if you were keeping tabs, that is somewhat of an anomaly, or maybe where the future is going. March 31st, so a mere 2.5, 3 weeks from now, we will be at peak staffing, fully staffed, everything, everybody, including aircraft from Oregon to Mexico. So as an agency, we are going to be ready for whatever comes. I personally hope that not much comes of that. So that said, I think that gives us a great opportunity, along with other cooperators and agencies, to get a lot of fuels work done. We've got everybody on board. We've got things lined up. So we're going to start smashing it even better than we are already. Locally, here in the probably North County, there is a discussion of the California Board of Forestry organizing a tour to come up and look at some of the work that's been done. Probably the Osgood project would be one that's kind of a marquee that stands out, easy access, high visibility, and high strategic value. So for those of you that live in the Wairika area, you've probably seen the work on the Osgood project. A lot of fuels work going on there recently. Actually, from networking from this call last month and hearing Giselle speak of things, we've been able to network a little bit more, and that Lake Shastina VTP. We've got Chief Scott Irvine, the Weed Battalion Chiefs, working. I think we're identifying some targets of opportunity in that Shastina area, Ordway Ranch, Jackson Ranch, that I think because that VTP is in place, we're going to start doing some strong work in there. So again, thanks for that communication, Giselle. And I think that's part of the benefit of this call is that we can network and figure out what's going on. So I would love to be able to put some things to rest and answer some questions if you're following politics and legislature and what happens from POTUS to our governor. But to be honest, there was the proclamation for CEQA exemptions, which is our environmental documents that allows us to go to work on projects. That proclamation was made last week, and we were pinged and had about a 2-hour response time for some proposed projects, but it's still unclear how those exemptions are going to roll out and how we can go to work on those. We do have a couple projects in mind. One's going to be what we're going to call the Etna fuel break, which will be expanding the fuel break on the west side of Etna. And another is going to be in that McLeod Highway 89 corridor, tacking on to some of the work that both the federal cooperators have done and we've done in the past. But there's no guarantees. We don't know what that's going to roll out and look like, but we threw that up there as a slow pitch softball. So if it comes down the pipe, we can grab that quickly. I'll let Seth speak to the fuels work that's going on in the county. There's a lot of moving parts going on there. And again, we'll be fully staffed here in a few weeks. There's going to be a little diminish in our efforts or our work capacity because we're going to get everybody trained up to speed. But after March 31st, I'd say watch out. There's going to be a lot of stuff going on. I do know that we've been able to compile all of our projects, and I wish that, like our federal cooperators, I could say that we have a 24,000 acre project on the books. We don't. But cumulatively, we're looking at just over 30,000 acres within Siskiyou County. Basically, that's in private lands that we have plans and working towards fuels treatment. So that's the department standpoint, but I have a personal pitch to those that are on this call and those that we communicate with the other fire safes. I've learned this week that we have 5 chippers that belong to either Shasta County Fire or CAL FIRE, which we're the administrator for, but we have 5 chippers that are sitting idle a lot of the time because our folks are out working off-road base. They're working on these larger projects. So I want to issue a challenge that even if it's just a Firewise community or a street, let's start working on putting some plans together to get these landowners, let's start working some of these green waste projects, whether it's just a single street, but if we can organize the community to get their green waste out on a certain day or two, CAL FIRE will provide the equipment and the personnel to get rid of that material. I mean, that's what it comes down to. We're hearing political conversations of whose responsibility, who's paying. I'm going to step close to the line and say, ultimately, it's the responsibility of the landowner to take care of their lands. But I want to give the best faith effort to help those landowners do what needs to be done. So I think that's some low-hanging fruit for all of us to grab, but I need the fire safe councils to help us organize it. Like I said, I can provide the equipment and the personnel, provided we stay status quo for a bit, but I need help in organizing that. So that's my Hail Mary pitch. My boss supports it, maybe not verbatim, but that's part of the grab that I want to go forward. And we're even doing this stuff with our federal cooperators. The KNF, we're looking at going back in and doing some touch-up work with our equipment in Shasta Vista, Shastina areas. So we're thinking outside the box to get through some of the bureaucratic red tape that we all face. We're trying to get the best bang for the buck. So that's my pitch to everybody on here, whether it's the homeowners or the Fire Safe Council board members. Let's do that and see if we can start working on polishing that machine and we can get some bigger projects doing that green waste projects in these communities.
If I
So-
may insert, that's
Yep.
huge, because if you take your debris to the landfill, it's gonna cost you a hunk. If you can get your neighbors organized and get your own material cut and move to the edge of the road, it's huge for you.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't have the vehicles or trailers to haul it. So, yeah, that's huge. Yeah.
So there's the leaks in the dam you just identified, and I got the fingers to plug the holes, but we just need the organization to make that happen. So we're talking about these large scale projects, but ultimately it comes down to when there's a fire threatening a home, it's what's immediately around adjacent to that home. If we can't be there, we don't have enough fire engines. We need those homes to be able to stand on their own. So I'm throwing it out there. It's a slow pitch ball, so let's do it.
Thank you for that offer, Kevin.
That's great. We talked to Scott Irvine when Josh and I went to the Hammond Ranch annual meeting, and they were talking about doing that. And yeah, it's great. We're hoping to get another infusion from the California Fire Safe Council for another round of county coordinator funding, which would be what would fund, our time and staffing to coordinate all that. So yeah, we've been told that is going to come through. We just don't know when and how much. So.
Right.
Yep. And I know there's some retiree party planners that are out there. You gotta find those people, and they'll help pave the way for us to get this stuff done.
Yeah, we've also got great support from the Ford Family Foundation that it has given us micro grants to, buy the supplies to do barbecues for work days for, some community level green waste days. So we can look into that as well. They've been great supporting us in the past.
And I did see something just pop up again. I'm on my phone, so I can't really do a whole lot. I didn't see what popped up there. And if anybody needs
Josh has a question for you. And then Matt.
Josh.
Go ahead,
Yeah,
Josh.
Kevin, do you have a minimum of residents that you would need to get a chipper out to some of these river communities?
So actually, while you were talking about some downriver stuff, I was thinking about Horse Camp, some of those places that, to answer your question directly, no. But I'd be looking to get a little bit of bang for our buck, right? And the just being on the road with the equipment and the personnel, the movement, the scheduling. I would like to see if we could get loosely put a street or an area to get, and then that networking is going to snowball. So no, and again, I'm putting myself out there right now to try and generate some cheerleaders to do this, but no, I don't.
Copy. Thank you. We'll find you something.
Yeah, we will. We can work on something. You got me ticking. At Madeline. You had a question, Madeline?
I would say yes, that the whole county can participate in this. We have state responsibility area, if you will, where we provide service, but the taxpayer is a taxpayer. So I think that we've got a little bit of ebb and flow. We've got we got to do what's right for the community and the taxpayers. So I think there's flexibility, and that's part of my new position. Is there's been a lot of just make it happen, break the system, fix the system, and see what we can get done.
Awesome. Yeah, we'd love to. We're just getting the Firewise communities going, and Dunsmuir is the first and the biggest so far, and they already do 2 amazing, very successful Greenways days every year. So we'd love to get these, the smaller Firewise communities that are just getting established on board with that. So
okay, and we're thrashing. We're working really hard. Jen and the Klamath folks been in direct communication. We're trying to kitty corner our project so we get as much protection for these communities. And we literally, it doesn't really matter what the uniform is or who we work for. We're all striving for the same thing. So there's a lot of outside the box thinking that's happening right now.
That's awesome. Very exciting. Thank you so much.
Great, Kevin. And then I still want to meet with you. Maybe we'll get together in the next week or two. We'll try again.
Oh yeah, I'm going to be completely transparent. Tuesday, I get on an airplane, head to Mexico to do some scuba diving. So next week's not a good week.
Oh, I feel so bad for you. Man,
You should.
tough.
You should.
We'll get there one day then.
We will make it happen.
Okay. All right, moving on.
Oh, actually, one more note on Green Waste Days from the chat. Sarah Chafee wanted to remind folks that the Wairika area has 2 Green Waste Days coming up. Sarah, if you can let us know where people can find the specifics on that, but it is, oh, no, she did it, March 15th and March 29th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. And that is not just for Wairika residents, like the Dunsmuir Green Waste Days is just for Dunsmuir area residents, but this is open to all Siskiyou County residents. Anyone can come and drop off green waste for free at the Wairika Green Waste Days. So that's a great opportunity.
Exactly. Thank you for mentioning that. And I just wanted to let you know, to CAL FIRE and property owners, we do work with our public works to try to coordinate if you need help with your green waste removal. Obviously, we need permission and the ask so that we know that the need is identified. But we've been working with the Veterans Association to help with their green waste as well. So if we coordinate it, we can, get that green waste to our yard. It's at our public works yard, and we can burn it.
Okay. I was just going to jump to Wes Duncan. He wanted to do an introduction tonight, but he's run out of time and he says he's taken off, but he's going to contact Kevin tomorrow, he said in the chat. All right. And thanks, Sarah, for that information. I'm gonna try to go quickly because this has been a pretty long meeting so far. Caltrans, if I skip over you, don't mean to, just stop me. Shasta Valley RCD, I don't see our normal members, but I think we had somebody here as an observer with and
Candy was here.
Hi.
Still in there?
Candy.
I'm still here. Yeah.
Do you want to give us an update on Shasta Valley RCD goings on?
I wasn't prepared to do that, but
that's
sure.
Oh, okay. We understand.
Yeah, we're working on the California Wildfire Mitigation Program, and it's moving along. We've been able to get it going. We've been able to get our second group going, and they've been impacted by the weather a bit, and we're not impacted by any funding freezes for that, thankfully. And we are working on getting another group of homes started, maybe in April, depending on how the weather plays out in the next couple of weeks. And then we're hoping to wrap up our group 1 with their zone 0, if the weather cooperates by the end of April.
And for folks who don't know, can you explain what that project is, where it is, what it's doing?
Oh, yeah, so the project is in West Mount Shasta. We have a goal to do a defensible space for 100 homes. And we've started on, I don't know off the top of my head, it's around 15 homes we're getting started on. We haven't completed any yet. We're operating in like a group of homes from 4 to 8 at a time to manage it, and it's moving along, not as quickly as we hoped, but we are learning. It's a pilot project that goes throughout the state. It exists also in San Diego County, Lake County, Tuolumne County, Shasta County, and there might be another community, but that's off the top of my head. That's all I got.
And if there are folks in the West Mount Shasta area, they can go to the Shasta Valley RCD's website and sign up.
Yes.
Okay. If you can get into the chat, if you could put your maybe email and the website in there, that would be great for me.
Okay, I will do that.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Candy. Sorry to put you on the spot like that.
No problem.
The next was Wesley Duncan from the Siskiyou County Office of Education Emergency Preparedness, but he did say he had to take off tonight. But hopefully he'll come back next month, and he wanted to just do an introduction of himself and what he was doing. I don't think we have any from the University of California or Cal RC&D.
I think George was here.
Was he? Is he still here?
Oh, it's George's iPhone. I think so.
Oh, is that? Oh,
I'm muted, but
oh, there you are, George.
for
Hi,
my
George.
for my own good, I was muted. So
Okay, go ahead, George.
Sure. Just want to talk about the Wairika Area Fire Safe Council and the Outson Road project. We're getting close to finishing the CEQA and should be starting layout. We're doing 25 homes, fencible space around 25 homes, and then around 300 acres of fuels work. It's on the south west side of Wairika and a little bit onto the county. Basically the hillside across from Walmart in Wairika, and then around the corner on Highway 3. Yeah, and then I know we're going to be partnering with the city of Wairika with their curtain burner, and so folks are going to be able to, take some of their work, some of the work done in our grant. The city partnered, and it's going to match with some of that to take care of some of that waste using their curtain burner. I think that's about it right now. I know that you guys were helping us with Josh and those guys kind of going out with us and helping, with the survey work. While we're planning our work for the defensible space, they were doing the survey work and being able to give folks that great information that they can use to either plan to do some additional work or be able to show their insurance company the things that they've completed and possibly lower their insurance or keep their insurance. So appreciate that partnering from the Fire Safe Council of Siskiyou County. And I think that, again, we got snowed out for a while, and then I heard some things were frozen. So I didn't know for sure if they were going to come back and continue to work with us. So I guess an update on that would be great if they're going to be available again. That's a question for tonight, I guess, if I could get that answered by Josh.
Yeah, affirmative. And we've been in communication with Brett. I believe
Brett, okay,
we're setting up for next week. And Greg, you could correct me if I'm incorrect on that.
Yep. No, that is correct, Josh. We have been working with Brett on scheduling home assessments out there still. So we're still in progress.
Great. Yeah. I think he had some personal stuff to take care of. So plus the snow hit for a while there. So we appreciate all that help. And I think people are really appreciating that information from you guys, the great detail that you're going into there. And I think that was it for us for now. Yep, I think that's it.
Okay, thanks, George. Siskiyou Prescribed Burn Association, not here. Sky River Watershed Council, Mount Shasta Bioregional, Sierra Nevada Conservancy, and Siskiyou County OES. Nancy's not here. Red Cross, Pacific Power, NRCS. Eric Olson, I didn't see him.
No, we've got the other.
Oh, that's right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Where'd he go? I lost him.
Is he still here? I don't see his name anymore.
I don't either.
Darren Weeks, are you here?
No, I don't think so.
He must have jumped off, but
yeah,
he was
down to
here.
one page. Okay. CHP, Siskiyou County Natural Resources, anything on the Stevens amendment?
No, the two forests, KNF and Shasta T, put in some proposals. They did it on our behalf, I believe. I'm not sure, but they put in some proposals for projects that they thought were a priority, and we have not heard any more back from them.
Okay. This should go quick. Local Fire Safe Council updates. Black Mountain, Butte Valley.
Working on fuel reduction project there. So, yeah.
Okay, Copco Lake, Dunsmuir. Is Steven still with us? No.
Oh.
See, okay. Greater Weed.
Working on a CWPP proposal. We're going to be writing one for the Greater Weed area.
Yeah. Hammond Ranch.
I did just get an email from Marushka out in Hammond Ranch, asking for a little more support. And they are getting close, it sounds like, to getting an application for Firewise USA moving forward. So that's exciting.
Okay. And Mike, Happy Camp, Mickwick.
Oh my goodness. You guys did so good. That was very informative tonight. And it's almost 7:30. I'll try to keep it short. You just mentioned CWPPs. We actually just were able to complete our Happy Camp CWPP process with all the signatures, which is a big deal, all the drafts, all the maps, everything that goes along with it. It's a ridiculously large undertaking. And yeah, so there's that. We are trying to build Happy Camp as a Firewise community. We're going to have an advisory committee, our first inaugural one coming up soon. One of our first orders of business is just going to be to figure out the mapped area that's included, but that's, just part of the process, but we've got some great people on it. We had our Fire Safe Council crew was furloughed all winter. They've just come back this last week. They're up and running. We have our first Klamath Trex meeting tomorrow of all things, which, we have burns hopefully in the early summer, then in the fall. But basically Mickwick is doing its best in the Happy Camp Fire Safe Council. And I know these are changing times for all of us. And I think we're just trying to keep moving forward. And I appreciate being a part of this community and that we're all in this together. So thanks everyone, and let's be in touch.
Thanks, Mike. Let me see then, Horse Creek.
Glenn, he might know a little bit. I think he's gone too.
I think we lost Glenn too. Juniper Flat.
No new news.
Klamath River. Lake Justina.
We're moving forward on our project. As Kevin said, the VTP is in place. We've only got about 15% of the landowners signed up. CAL FIRE is looking for alternative spots to work that area, and we're working together to determine that. So glad that they are interested to do it, and we're going to get some good things done in Lake Shastina moving forward.
Okay, great. Lower Scott River, McLeod, Mount Shasta.
Still working on a project on South Old Stage Road. We're going to finish that thing up, I hope, in the next 6 months. Still waiting on the CEQA to be finalized for the I-5 CEQA project, because there's 9 acres in there that is in our project, but it belongs to Caltrans. So as soon as that's done, we can fuel reduce this heavily manzanita fuel loaded area and get that done, and we'll be almost done with that project by then. So it's been a good project. Looking forward to wrapping it up.
Okay, Quartz Valley, Salmon River, Syad Valley, Wairika area. And anybody I missed for this evening?
I was curious if Jeremy Johnson or Seth Pindell have anything else to say for their programs for the CAL FIRE side.
Oh, did I miss them? I'm sorry.
I just spoke a long time.
Yeah, this is Seth Pindell, Battalion Chief for CAL FIRE. Chief Mancebo pretty much nailed it what we want to do, but we need you guys to contact us or an email list from all the fire safe councils. And I'll post my my number and contact in the group chat here. Chief Mancebo is going to be gone a little bit next week, so feel free to reach out to me on the chippers, and we can look at the projects and see what the proposals are. So we'd really like to get the chippers to work, and also our personnel on additional projects, ingress and egress, projects would be excellent projects for us to do with those chippers.
Well, just kudos to Seth. He's worked on lots of our Fire Safe Council projects over the years, and he and his crew were the A team. They were the greatest.
Hey, Seth, quick question. With respect to a chipper, are you guys bringing saws with you, or are you expecting the neighborhood residents, landowners to basically fall and prepare the material for you guys to chip?
Right now, we're looking for projects like community-based projects where the neighborhood or the residents would cut their material, pull it towards close to the road, and then we come in with chippers and dispose of it.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
So we also have so we could put the chips into the property, and then we also have what's called a hook truck that we can put chips into a truck as well. So there are areas where it wouldn't be the most effective thing to chip it back into the property. So there is a possibility of moving the chips as well. But preferably we chip it back into the property.
So this is our way to get around some of the environmental restrictions that we run up against on timelines. So if the landowner's doing the work and they bring it to the roadway, we're not disturbing any soil. We don't have to worry about environmental documents, but we're getting the work done. So it's a shared work effort.
Copy. We're in the same boat, but we've got a lot of new requests, so I might lean on you guys to come to Happy Camp in Syad to help with some of these requests.
And I got to tell you, Happy Camp made it into the mainstream media here in Shasta County this last week with the Enjoy magazine and some of the work that Jasmine Morgatti is doing and some of the expansion and potential of bring Happy Camp back on the map. So I want to let you guys know we're reading about you.
Great. Jasmine's a rock star. Thanks.
Oh, I'm gonna have to pick that up. Thanks for the tip. I also just realized in context of all this that we will be getting our tool trailer that Giselle single-handedly got a grant for Fire Safe Council tool trailer, essentially, for exactly these types of projects. And the Bioregional Center also has their Listos tool trailer and has been trying to, get people rallying and doing neighborhood, defensible space clearing days. So I'll reach out to Nick and put the bug in his ear and try to get everyone going in the same direction and connect the dots.
All right. Seth, was there anything else?
Yeah, Jamie, I could just give a quick update on the wildfire prevention grants.
Yes,
so
please do, Jeremy.
After speaking with our North Region grants folks, we are going to be holding a solicitation period again this calendar year, which most likely will be in around the October area. That's historically when those wildfire prevention grants have became available. And this is pretty similar information to what I gave last month. There's going to be two different funding sources for that. And, it's really important that for all the grantees to reach out to their local battalion chief, whatever battalion that they're either in or that they're wanting to do grant work in, and get tied in with that local battalion chief and get the project aligned with what his vision is for his battalion. Ultimately, they're the first ones that bring up their priority projects to the unit chief and the grant program folks at the unit level, and then we move forward with prioritizing all of those different grants from the 4 battalions, and then push that up to North Region. So definitely for the grantees, just get yourself aligned with that local battalion chief, and that's how you can become the most successful with securing the CCI grant funded. End of report.
Okay, thanks, Jeremy. And just to Seth, we'll get you that mailing list. I'm sorry we didn't get it to you before now.
Yeah, and that's fine. And like what Jeremy said, we'll work through those individual battalion chiefs that have those field jobs. There's 4 of them. I have all their contacts. If you can contact me directly, and then I can put everybody in touch with the specific battalion chief they need to talk to.
Okay.
And we can go from there.
Great, thank you. All right, it's a closeout of the meeting. If there's any action items, if we caught any action items, Kristen or Ruby. And if not, we have another meeting next month in April.
Did you, can I have a quick question about the group meeting that you're having with the Forest Service? Is that next week?
Yeah.
The Sawmick?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, next week. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, what's the date?
You'll be getting an invitation, George. We're working on that
Okay.
now. We just finalized the agenda, and
Okay.
Ruby's going to push that out to that group.
Okay. Yeah, I've got you on my calendar already, so I think it's
Okay.
already set.
All righty.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, Heidi, go ahead.
Yeah, I just noticed that Steve Diaz is on the call. And Steve, can I put you on the spot and have you introduce yourself? Because I think you came in a little late.
Oh, okay, thanks, Heidi.
Oh,
Your
you're
mic.
Steve.
Looks like you got to hit your button there.
There you go.
Okay. So I guess I don't really have a choice. I guess I'm going to introduce myself. My name's Steve Diaz. Once upon a time a fireman, now embracing retirement. What I am here for, thanks, Kevin, I'm going to see if I can put together a Firewise community. I'm president of one of our local water boards. We serve about 85 customers. And we live down by Lake Siskiyou in an area that has a propensity. So far, we've been lucky. We haven't burned, but we know it's only a matter of time. So that's why I'm here, do a little fact finding and kind of get things going. If we can save money on insurance, great. But over and above that, we would like to protect ourselves and our neighbors. How'd I do, Coach?
You know, and bottom line on insurance, and we've been saying this, whether you get insurance cheap or not at all, you still need to do your work, protect yourself best you can. And we'll work on the other stuff, but don't forsake cleaning your place up.
Yes, you're right. And we have had some help from Deadwood Camp. They've come up and done some work between some of the residences and the lake on what the county has as their flood control right of way. It's a great start, and now we need to kind of expand that to the rest of our little subdivision.
Well, thank you, Steve, for caring and taking responsibility for your neighborhood.
And if I remember correctly, if we need things and logistical support, Steve's our guy, but that might be in a life past.
Actually, I can still handle that. I think my quals are still current.
Great, thank you, and welcome to our group. All right, folks, it's been a long night. I'm going to call an end to the meeting, and good to see everyone, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah, stop recording.
Thanks, Greg. Thanks,
Steve-
everyone.
Steve, I don't know